Breaking news! Welcome to Channel 69 Orological News. You can count on us to keep the war in Orological. That was a great joke. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. It's Friday, which means it's time for a bit of a watch rant. Now, this story I'm going to be talking about today because we're not all fun and games around here. Sometimes we got to talk about some of the goings-on in the watch world. This has been kind of running its circuit around various news places, I should say watch journalist places, and inevitably it's found its way in my inbox over and over and over and over and over again. I've actually gone over this with my channel members. We did our weekly meetup where we all discussed this. If you want to join kind of the current topics, each week we do a channel members meetup where we all talk live with each other. Join that Discord chat, guys. Click the join button. Oh my gosh, next to the subscribe button. And it's like YouTube's Patreon, $4.99. You get access to that members only Discord chat and some extra content each week. All right, this is a crazy story. Let's get right into it. It is 1:55 p.m. Let's get down to business. Alright guys, so if you already were frustrated about Rolex's, various supply issues, their wait lists, their seemingly, bottlenecking of their own products, making them totally, utterly inaccessible to the common man, brace yourself, because this story is going to make you even more just infuriated. Major Rolex AD accused of racketeering and selling directly to the gray market. Wow, what a surprise. I wish my editors could find the live stream that I did probably 2 years ago at this point, where I said that this is probably more than likely happening. It just wasn't caught back then. Finally, someone, it seems like, has been caught for exactly this: selling directly to the gray market. Now, it makes total sense. You see, when a Rolex authorized distributor gets their pieces from Rolex and they sell Rolex watches, Rolex essentially dictates how much money that authorized distributor can make on each Rolex unit they are selling, right? So, for instance, let's say that MSRP on a Daytona is 13 grand, and a Rolex authorized distributor sells that Rolex. They can only sell it for the MSRP, right? They can only sell it for what Rolex says they can sell it for, and then once that authorized distributor sells it, they themselves can only make a certain percentage of that sale, and then of course the rest goes to Rolex. You know what? I'm actually going to look up the exact MSRP of a Daytona right now. Actually, I was almost right on the money, no pun intended. Currently, this exact Daytona, the one everyone wants, is $13,150, so right around 13 grand. So again, let's say I'm a Rolex authorized distributor. I get one of those Daytonas in, I have a buyer, I have to sell it for $13,150, and then I can only make a certain percentage, and I have to give the rest to Rolex. But what if I understood everything going on in the watch world? I know that this is a hot commodity. I know for a fact that these are going for like 25 grand, sometimes 30 on the gray market. Well, why the heck would I sell it for $13,150 and take a small percentage, giving the rest to Rolex, when I could get that watch, sell it directly on the gray market, and man, 30 grand sounds a lot better than a percentage of 13. Well, a couple years ago, when, the Rolex waitlists were just starting to get super duper out of hand, I hypothesized during one of the channel live streams, and I said, maybe Rolex isn't really bottlenecking their supply as much as we think, and maybe the ADs are taking advantage of the market environment and they're just selling it under the table, or they're selling it directly to the gray market because, again, they have much larger profit margins there. Well, we didn't have any proof of that actually going on, so I was just kind of, again, trying to find a reason as to why it seems like it was just impossible to get a stainless steel Rolex. Well, according to atelierdegriffe.com, which is one of the first websites that actually broke this story, a former Rolex AD employee is directly accusing one of Chicago's oldest jewelers and Rolex authorized dealer for terminating her employment in retaliation for whistleblowing and refusing to engage in flagrant illegal activity and engaging in racketeering. So, this is actually kind of multifaceted here. I'm no lawyer. I mean, come on, obviously. I'm at the very minimum an obnoxious online personality. But I do understand that in most states it's actually illegal to fire a whistleblower, and that would be considered retaliation. And then not only are you going to get in trouble for whatever the person was whistleblowing you for, you have now terminated a whistleblower and you're going to get the book thrown at you again. I know for a fact I have a few lawyers in my comment section. I know for a fact I have a few lawyer viewers. So yeah, sound off in the comment section. Kind of explain what could be going on here. I think all of us could learn a ton from you guys. But the story doesn't stop here, because apparently this old school Chicago jeweler, a very well respected one apparently, one of the oldest ones in the city, wasn't just doing this with Rolex watches. They were also doing it to Patek Philippe. So, for all of you guys that were complaining about the decades-long wait lists on some of these Nautilus reference numbers, you see, I have a few theories about this. One of the biggest defenses whenever you hear of these organizations getting caught for these things is the first thing they say, right? Well, I'm not the only person doing it, I'm just the only person that got caught for it. Which is exactly what scares me, okay? Because I don't think that this Chicago jeweler is the only person doing this. I have a feeling a lot more jewelers are doing this, because guys, you know the old adage where there's smoke, there's fire? Well, typically where there's fire, there's more fire. So we have actual proof, or at least a very credible allegation, of this AD selling directly to the gray market, making large profits, and just essentially circumventing the normal first-hand market. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to assume other ADs are doing this, at least across the country, maybe globally. But again, I don't want to get myself in hot water and accuse anyone specifically of doing it. I just think it's very interesting that this totally correlates with the watches that are in such high demand, that have enormous wait lists that people just can't seem to find. So guys, we've heard a bunch of crazy things from Rolex, and we've heard horror stories of, this AD told me that I need to spend a certain amount of money at their store before they allocate me a watch that I want. Or, Rolex ADs, their standard operating procedure now is to remove all the plastic from the watch for you. You're not allowed to do that. And then also they keep the warranty card for a year. Or, I've heard of Rolex ADs, they cut the hang tag and they keep it for a certain amount of time, and that's to make sure that you don't manipulate the market by reselling Rolexes. Okay, fine. I mean, that might be going on. I haven't seen that firsthand, but what I have heard now is that a very well-respected Rolex AD is circumventing the normal first-hand market and trying to make large profits, and just making it very, very difficult for us to actually get these Rolex watches at MSRP. So hear me out. So I'm not trying to defend Rolex here at all, but we need to be somewhat reasonable about this, okay? If you had told me before this story broke that it seems like Rolex themselves are purposefully manipulating their market, they're purposefully trying to create, I guess, what people would call artificial demand by bottlenecking the supply chain and making their watches really, really difficult to get, I would be like, okay, sure. You know, the wait lists, they're getting totally out of hand. When things are going above a decade to get a stainless steel sports watch, it's getting kind of ridiculous. But now that we have proof of, at least, again, a credible allegation of this going on, it makes me think that maybe Rolex isn't intentionally bottlenecking their supply as much as we once thought. I think Rolex might be distributing their watches to their authorized dealers, and the dealers might just be moving them on the secondhand market, and Rolex doesn't really know or care. And here's where this would be Rolex's fault, because at the end of the day, their percentages are still being paid because, again, the ADs would be making huge profit margins on the secondhand sales, or gray market sales, we should say. And then they're going to pay Rolex their fair share so Rolex doesn't come after them, and still they get a very large chunk of change for themselves. Now, why do I say Rolex doesn't really care? Well, here's what I think is going to happen in this case. I think Rolex, as a company, is probably going to throw their book at this AD, and they're going to make an example of this AD, kind of to do some damage control, right? So that we, as watch enthusiasts, don't lose faith in Rolex. We can be like, oh, great job, Rolex. You're doing awesome, honey. Thank you so much for having our backs and holding this guy accountable, this AD. But I also don't think they're going to do any further digging, because they don't want to expose anyone else that might be also doing this, because then ultimately, you know, all that bad news isn't going to be good news. You know, people say that, you know, all publicity is good publicity, all news is good news. Well, if Rolex does some snooping around and starts exposing that a bunch of their ADs, like more than one, is doing this shady stuff, it's going to be getting people really upset that are essentially being forced into like paying these non-MSRP prices, these gray market prices, these incredibly inflated prices. Yeah, people are just, the people are gonna start throwing the book at Rolex, and Rolex doesn't want that. So they're gonna throw the book at this one AD, and then they're gonna make an example out of this guy to help us settle down and feel like Rolex is doing something about it, and then they're going to look around to their ADs and be like, hey, we don't want to know about it. Do not get caught with any of this stuff, and we don't want to know about it. That's what I think is going to happen. But again, sound off in the comment section. So yeah, I'm very disappointed to hear this, but again, I don't want to say I told you so, but I kind of did. Like, again, it must have been over a year ago. I speculated that this was probably happening, and it's infuriating, because again, imagine a world where you could get that ceramic white dial Daytona stainless steel for 13 grand. Imagine! Yeah, not gonna happen. It seems like an impossibility, and it's at least partially due to scumbags like that Chicago jeweler. Thanks. So yeah, I'm not happy about this, guys. I guess it's good that this, you know, organization got exposed. It sounds like they're going to be held accountable. Thank you to the whistleblowers, and you know, I hope they get their own support. And yeah, just, you know, keep your eyes peeled, guys, and don't assume that everything is on the level, okay? There's clearly shady stuff going on, and now we have some allegations of it that we can actually take a look and scrutinize. So yeah, just wanted to kind of follow up on this, because a bunch of people were sending me this article in my inbox, and I hear you guys. I read everything. I respond to as many people as possible. I get over 100 messages a day, so thank you for the people that send me all the current events, and yeah, if you want to join the conversations that we do weekly, so it's not just me talking into the camera, please join the members only Discord. It's a whole lot of fun. It's like my favorite part of the channel at this point, and I love hanging out with all them, so I'd love to see you there. And if you enjoyed this episode, and if you learned something and you want to join the conversation in the comment section, then please comment. That helps the channel a bunch. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You know, there's a whole bunch of ways to support the channel. You can check out the affiliate links. You can check out my personal website, www.thetimetellershop.com. But easily, the easiest, most effective way to help us is just to keep doing what you're doing, hanging out with us every time we upload. And I love to see you interacting again in the comment section. So guys, stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. Let me know what you think about all of this current events. And yeah, I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. Always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.